How do you stay cool without air conditioning? So this past weekend, we experienced triple digits for 3 days in a row here where we live in the Pacific Northwest. We actually topped out at 120 degrees Fahrenheit here at 3:30 in the afternoon. And without having air conditioning, we had to pull out all of the stops in order to keep our house as cool and ourselves as possible. So my first tip is a pretty basic one, but when you combine all of these together, they work very well. The hottest our house got, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, was 88 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is obviously during the heat of the day when it's hotter outside than it would be inside, is to close all of the doors and windows, but not just close them, but actually block the sunlight that's coming in. So we have all of our blinds closed. If you don't have blinds or curtains or window coverings, you can use sheets, you can use towels, whatever you can to create an extra barrier from allowing the heat and the sun to come through your windows. Now, after doing that, especially if you have children, you want to minimize the opening and closing of doors and kids running out, because every time you open that door, you're just letting in extra heat. So we actually had come back from running to the store, and so we had a game plan. Everybody had to grab so many bags so that we could get all of the bags and all of the groceries from the car into the house with only opening the door once. So we did manage to do it. We waited until everybody was right at the door, opened it, come in as fast as you can, and then shut it. But that does really help. Now, if you have to go in and out, picking a door that is in the shade or most likely has northern exposure, because usually, obviously, it's in the shade, it's going to be cooler, and northern exposure usually is away from the sunlight, is being strategic about what doors you are opening and closing if you have to open them. So, of course, we're keeping everything buttoned up tight during the day so that we're not letting any extra hot air in. But once it begins to get cooler at night than it is in the house, then you're going to want to open everything up. So we open all of the doors with the screen, having the screen doors, because living on a homestead, when you have livestock, there's lots of flies. So making sure that we've got the screen doors, but creating as much airflow as possible. So obviously opening up all of the windows, keeping those doors propped open, and then in front of them, if you have any fans, is placing your fan. We do this in our bedrooms as well as here, because I can open up, which is why this is sitting here. It's like it's permanent home during the summer. But I can pull my shades back, open this up, have just a screen door, and then turn this on high. And once the air is cooler outside and the fan's facing this way, then it's actually drawing the cooler air from outside and directing it inside to the house. Now, some people like to take like a milk jug with water and freeze it, put it in a deep freeze, or get like a block of ice and put it on a stool or a table or something right in front of the fan and have it blow over that frozen surface to provide cool air. I think that works more effectively if you're sitting right next to it, rather than just further away or for a large room like this. But that was one of the tips that I've seen that a lot of people have been using, kind of creating like basically kind of like a swamp cooler with their fan. But here's the one that was very, very helpful, especially when we were trying to go to sleep at night and it was too late to go out and too dark to go out into the swimming pool or to hose down or to take a cold shower. And that is, you can take a dish towel or a washcloth, get it damp, and then put it in the freezer. I like to freeze them so that they're kind of like in a U shape like this, and then put them on the back of your neck like that. And as it begins to thaw, which will happen pretty close, in fact, I didn't measure so well, but we'll pull that a little bit. You will be surprised at how fast this actually cools you down. I highly recommend having multiples, and you can do, like I said, a kitchen towel is going to be a little bit longer, so it'll come down the front, but the back of the neck is awesome. And then when we're trying to go to sleep, actually with the way that your circulation works, under the armpit is a great spot. And then I like to put it on my torso when I'm trying to go to sleep at night, especially if you have a fan blowing on you. This works great. So as I said, have multiples of these because they will begin to thaw, and then you can just keep swapping and trading them out. But these can be a lifesaver. When I was a teenager, I worked at a local restaurant that did not have air conditioning even in the kitchen, and I worked on the fryer, the deep fryer and the grill, and that's actually where I learned this trick. It was the only way that we could get through the day with standing over and cooking. And so you would just come home and you would have like trails where the water would melt from the towels hanging. So you just kind of had this perpetually wet. But as we know, that's why we sweat, right? Anytime you have moisture and it begins to evaporate, it does help to cool the body down. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I know other people said that they will even spray like their bed sheets down at night so they're at least damp before getting into them when it's really hot. That hasn't been the one that we tried because I just used my frozen towels. The other thing is being very strategic with your cooking, because heating up the house with both the stovetop and the oven, if I have my oven on and I'm baking and I've got stuff simmering on our stovetop, I mean, that can easily raise the degrees by at least a couple, if not 5 degrees, which I love in the wintertime when the house is cold, but I don't want that in the summertime. So I try to use things like my Instant Pot, a slow cooker. I try to avoid using the stove if at all possible. Now, there are some times when I do have to use the stove, especially if we're having those hot temps for days on end. And when that happens, I prefer to do it in the evening, because in the evening, we're still getting cooler at night, and I can open up all the windows and I'm gonna get airflow coming from the house and cooling it down, rather than trying to do it in the morning. The house is cooler in the morning, but I'm increasing the temperature build, and then it's gonna stay warmer all day without a way to cool it off. So I find it better to run or turn on anything, have it hot if you have to heat it up in the afternoon. But my favorite way is, if I don't have something that I'm putting or cooking in the Instant Pot or the slow cooker, is to make sure that we are just cooking outside. So my next tip is to cook outdoors. So of course, having a barbecuer, a lot of people have a barbecue, but that can be a great way. And then we also have our smoker, which this is not requiring live coals, so we're not really worried about fire danger, but usually you can use charcoal in and approved things. And so we've got the smoker here, and we have these set up so they are in the shade. That's gonna be absolutely key to helping keep cool. So we've got these here, but another thing that you can do, even though we've got our grill here, is create an outdoor kitchen area. So out here, even though we are in the sun, we get more of a breeze. And this is my outdoor area where we'll cook salmon and burgers. This is nice because it's up to waist high. I've got a large cooking area. I also can put this lid on here if things are almost getting done, or if we want to do even a little bit of smoking, we can do this. And so I like having the prep table here because I can bring all of my ingredients out from the house to minimize trips going into the house, because one, that's going to be more work on me, and it's also going to make things hotter and opening and closing those doors like we talked about earlier. So I like to bring everything kind of out, and then I've got this area where I can prep and pull things off and put them here. And then I don't have any of my utensils out here right now, but I can also hang them from here. So that just makes it for easy access. So this is just cinder blocks that we've gotten set up here, and then this is just like, and then I can pull. So this has got some little handles here, and this part doesn't get too hot even when I've got the fire there. But if I need to add more wood and or charcoal, depending on what my cooking medium is, like I can easily pick this up, move it aside, etc., and then set it back down. Now, another cooking area that we've got is our fire pit over here, which I've got a lovely buttercup growing in. So you can tell I have not had a fire in here extremely recently, but I like this because it's, obviously this is just an old cone from like a crusher, but this works really nice because it helps keep it contained, and you also want to have that nice firewall up. But I do a lot of my Dutch oven cooking out here. So baking time, when it's really hot and you're trying to keep your house cool, the last thing you want to do is turn the oven on, but there's only so much that you can do cooking wise when you're smoking or when you're grilling, etc. And sometimes I like to continue with my baking, and so I'll bring my Dutch ovens out here, and then I can bake anything in them that I would in the regular oven in the house. And so once I get the coals going, that all stays contained in here, and then I'll put it on my Dutch ovens and keep them going in here. So if the kids are running around or animals or whatever, they're not going to be in any danger of knocking it over or brushing up against the hot Dutch oven and the coals and burning themselves. And I don't have any of this heat going on inside the house. Now this is a little bit more of a long-term method on keeping cool, but planting deciduous trees strategically. And I say deciduous because in the wintertime, we actually want any sunshine that may be coming to help warm up the house, but we definitely don't want it in the summertime. So if we're planting things like maples, those are a big batch of maples there, and right now they're not providing any shade. But this is because we're still pretty early in the day here. As we get to the latter part of the day, which is the hotter part of the day, the sun will actually begin to dip down, and those will begin to provide shade in the evening hours and shade the house about 3 hours before it would normally get shade if they weren't there. So it's something you don't want to plant trees too close to your house, obviously, for safety reasons and other things. But planting them strategically, it'll take a while, obviously, before they're big enough to provide shade, but that can be a long-term thing to think about to help keep your house cool naturally. And of course, if you have any type of pool, obviously that's going to help keep you cool without air conditioning as well. If you're looking for more ways to cook outdoors, you can head on over to the website. I'll have the link below this video. I have a blog post with a number of ways for you to be able to do that. And I would love to know what your best tips are for keeping cool if you don't have air conditioning.